welcome to SVV's second webinar in our three-webinar series. This one is titled Welcome to the AI Agent Future, which is about AI agents. I'm Barry Downs. I'm the Managing Partner of SVV. I'm here with my colleague, John. Hey, John, do you want to do a quick intro?
Thanks, Barry. Hi, folks. I'm John Frizelle. So I have a dual role. I am venture partner with Your Valley, and I am founder and CEO of Alludium AI, which is an AI agent platform.
Thanks, John. Thanks for joining us today. We're delighted to have you. So let me move on and talk about what we're going to do today and our agenda. So we're going to start with John in a couple of moments, just to give a quick overview of what AI agents are and their use as digital workers. And then once John has gone over that information, I'm going to give a quick overview of the market for agents. Then John will come back and talk about the AI agent technology stack and who some of the key players are. And then I'm going to do just a quick preview of our webinar next week, which is about how we think about investing in AI agents. But I'll just do a couple of slides just to give you a taste of that. And then I'll move on to talk about our own internal agent project that we're just about to open source called agenticvc.org. And then based upon that, once we've gone through that, we're going to talk about lessons learned by ourselves and by the industry at large in terms of implementing agents, and also the business benefits of doing so as well, which are really immense actually. And then finally, we're gonna kind of wrap up with which I think a really important topic that so many people are interested in, which is how will work change? And the picture of that is becoming very clear to us at this moment from both the companies we invest in and the work we do ourselves. So we wanted to communicate that with you early, and then we'll wrap up and conclude. So that's it. Thank you everybody for joining, and we're going to go through things pretty quickly. We've got a lot of slides to get through, so we're going to do them at a fairly fast pace. And the very first thing I just want to tell you, just two quick slides on Sure Valley. We're a specialist AI venture capital investor. There's a picture of the team on the left there. We're former founders and operators turned investors. We have deep knowledge of the AI sector, both in terms of the technology and the market. And we've got this from investing in this sector since 2017. And in fact, we had the first sale of a generative AI company in 2019. And we all, as a team, because of our founder backgrounds, all have significant personal experience of exits and also supporting our startups exit as well. So thank you for joining, and we look forward to getting on with the webinar for you. Before we do, one quick thing: we're based around. We have a number of offices in the UK and Ireland. We're very active investors. We've made 10 investments in new companies over the last 12 months. If you're a startup on the call, we would love to talk to you. Please do reach out to us. So over to you, John.
Thank you, Barry. Okay, let's start by defining what an AI agent is, because there's a lot of different terminology out there. So let's be specific about what an agent is. It is an autonomous software entity. It can act independently to analyze, reason, and make decisions. It will use a large language model to think and reason. It will use tools and integrations to interact with external systems. It will communicate and collaborate with other agents to delegate work, request information. It will be able to execute workflows for predefined, well-structured processes. And it uses memory, knowledge, and context to give it relevant information about previous interactions, learnings, and real-time information. So we really tend to think of, next slide please, of an agent as a digital worker that can supercharge productivity. And agents excel in certain areas at the moment. And in those areas where agents work well, you can think of them as digital workers that never sleep, work autonomously 24/7 with near human-like intelligence to increase output and reduce cost. So in those areas, if you assess an AI agent or a digital worker against a human worker on a bunch of criteria, including availability, focus, quality, cost, collaboration, scalability, speed, and adaptability, we find that these digital workers quite often can keep up with or outperform human workers across quite a wide range of metrics. So let's talk about a specific example. Let's make this a little bit more tangible. So here's an example of a digital worker called Elena, who's an agent that is a strategic investment analyst who can develop comprehensive strategies and portfolio recommendations. Elena has specific areas of expertise, including investment strategy and portfolio analysis, and can use specific tools and applications and execute specific processes. So Elena on her own can do the work of an investment strategist and can be duplicated many times. But Elena, when we make her part of a team, as we will see on the next slide, we see productivity really start to increase. So here we have an example of a team, an investment research and analysis team, including Elena, as well as agents for focusing on market research, financial analysis, and report writing. These team members collaborate with each other and with humans to achieve specific business goals and objectives. And then as we zoom that out further, we can see these teams starting to emerge across various verticals and across various functions within the enterprise, be that financial services, sales, marketing, HR, or legal.
Great, thanks very much, John. So let's take a quick look at the agent marketplace. And as we do that, let me just start with this Meter slide. So Meter are an organization that track the performance and capability of AI agents. And there's a couple of things that are very notable here. First of all, you'll see that performance is doubling every 70 days at the moment. Now, this time last year, it was every 7 months. So the performance of these agents is growing exponentially, and in fact, actually even a little bit faster than exponentially at the moment. I think that's a very important thing to bear in mind as we go through. Second of all, agents are being rolled out at the moment. This is KPMG Q2 Pulse survey data. I'll just draw your attention here. What this is really saying that in Q1, there was rollout of 11% of organizations were rolling out AI agent projects. This went up to 33% in Q2, and the Q3 data is just emerging at the moment, and it looks like that could be 44% of organizations in Q3. So there is a rapid rollout of agent technology in the enterprise. Now, if that doesn't resonate with you, it may well be because the biggest use case right now is agentic coding. And I've got a couple of slides here that illustrate that. So just over a year ago, the kind of annualized revenue from agentic coding was about $300 million, and most of it went to GitHub Copilot. What's happened is this has been the breakout area of the last year, and there's been approximately 1.3 billion in new ARR in agentic coding this year. And also a number of companies have become household names, such as Cursor and Windsurf in the development community, and Replit and Lovable for developers and non-developers as well. And effectively, we've gone from 300 million in revenue to 1.6 billion in revenue. And also, Lovable has become the fastest ever company to reach $100 million in ARR, and that's over approximately 7 months this year. They're a Scandinavian company, by the way. So this is the biggest use case in enterprise at the moment, but it's not the only one. I mean, so you see it here in terms of coding, but there are other use cases such as product design, data intelligence, sales productivity, customer engagement, marketing, HR, and legal. And if you've not seen this yet in your organization, it's coming, and it's coming in these use cases over the next 12 months. And the reason for that is they are already delivering significant value, increased productivity, cost savings, but also faster decision making, improved customer experience, improved profitability, but also faster time to market and market expansion. And you will see during this webinar that it's not just about productivity, it's also about opportunity as well. This will be a return theme as we go through it. And then just what are agents being built for? Approximately 50% of them are redesigning end-to-end workflows and processes and reimagining functions, but 22% are actually creating new innovative business models and new products to drive growth. So lots and lots of opportunity emerging out of this. And then just coming back to what these agents can do again, and this is OpenAI data, and it relates to their agent product, which was released earlier on this year. And this text here is, I think probably I'll just read this as it is because it's pretty powerful. So what it says is, on a benchmark designed to evaluate model performance on complex, economically valuable knowledge work tasks, ChatGPT's agent output is comparable to or better than that of humans in roughly half the cases. And that's our agent this year. And we've covered off earlier on how this is compounding very, very rapidly. So think about where that will be next year and what will be possible through that. So as you think about that, let's go back to John and talk about the technology itself.
Thank you, Barry. Right, let's dive into the details of AI agents and their architectures. So what we have here is an overview of a typical AI agent architecture. So at the top, you have the perception layer. So that's input processing in various modalities, be that text, voice, image, or video, extracting content from that, being aware of the environment. Then you have the reasoning engine, the real brain of the system, the large language model, doing planning, decision-making, and goal decomposition. Powering that, you also have memory systems. So you have the short-term working memory and longer-term storage and retrieval mechanisms, which we will look at in quite a bit of detail in coming slides. Then you have the action interface, giving the agent the ability to take action, to call tools and integrate with external systems. And finally, very importantly, you have the monitoring and controls. So safety constraints, performance, metrics, and human oversight. Right. Next, I want to just differentiate between workflows and agents because these can get somewhat confused. So workflows tend to be systems that are deterministic. So you know what the execution path is. They may well involve using large language models for content generation or summarization, but they're used in a controlled environment. Whereas agents are systems where the LLM dynamically directs its own process and tool usage, deciding how to accomplish tasks in a dynamic fashion. And when you combine the two of those, we tend to look at them as two sides of the same coin. When you combine structured workflows with agents and give agents the ability to execute these workflows, you can get some phenomenal results. So when it comes to how to build and deploy agents, one of the core debates that exists is how agents interact. So there are kind of two schools of thought. Multi-agent systems with a central orchestrator, coordinating numerous sub-agents in parallel, or linear handoff, where only one agent is active at a time. It completes before it hands off to the next agent in the process. Neither of these is right or wrong. As we'll see over the next couple of slides, there are use cases for both of them. So starting with the multi-agent system, this can be incredibly good in terms of performance because you can execute many, many tasks or many agents in parallel. So you can dramatically increase throughput and completion times. But that does come literally at a cost. These multi-agent systems can consume an awful lot more resources, tokens as they're called, than standard interactions, making them particularly suitable for high-value enterprise tasks. Then in terms of linear handoff, what this really is a structured workflow where each step in the workflow is an agent executing within its own right. And as one agent completes, it hands off to the next one. And what this really solves is a potential fragility problem that exists in parallel systems where sub-agents may lack appropriate shared context of what each other is doing. So this linear handoff solution ensures that full context is passed between each agent in a controlled manner. So how and when to use each one really depends on what your use case is. Multi-agent systems are great for parallelizable tasks. For example, if you have a list of 500 companies you want to do market research on, linear or single agents are better for more business critical tasks or tasks with numerous dependency requiring more structure. Okay, so as we look at the actual technology stack for an agent, there are 3 layers that we're going to explore. There's the core logic engine, that's really the large language model and memory management. There is the tool integration layer, giving the agent the ability to take action, and the governance and control layer, making sure that the enterprise or that the agent is behaving correctly, is compliant, and giving operational oversight. So looking at the core logic engine, the first thing we need to think about for every agent is what large language model are we going to use? And LLM selection is absolutely crucial. There's a number of key considerations. The cost, the size of the context window, how big a working memory does the agent have? The reasoning ability of the large language model. Does the agent need to reason? If so, how much? And where is this large language model running? Is it in a cloud hosting provider like AWS Bedrock or Google Vertex, or is it being provided by a model vendor? So really the key takeaways here are to understand the agent's needs, evaluate different models, and right-size the LLM model for each agent. Then complementing the large language model is memory. This is an evolving area. It's not quite a solved problem, but a lot of work has been done on this in the last 12 months. And memory systems represent a really important core component for production agents. And we see many different forms of memory emerging. We have short-term working memory, episodic memory about what happened and when, semantic memory, procedural memory, how-to skills, memory about specific entities, associations, and context. So many different facets of memory that an agent can draw on to help it make decisions and then update to learn from later. As we look to the tool integration layer, the emerging standard here is called Model Context Protocol from Anthropic. And this protocol defines a client and server architecture where the agents are the client and the server exposes a set of tools and prompts and resources that the agent can make use of. So typically you see one MCP server per SaaS service, and then agents can mix and match tools from different MCP servers for whatever their use case is. Then at the governance and control layer, what you really need is a control tower. It's a new software category for enterprise scale agentic systems. So to start, you need a universal registry. You need to know exactly what agents you have and where. You need governance and security, which we'll look at in more detail in coming slides. So centralized policy enforcement, access control, and security protocols. You need real-time observability and monitoring of what agents are doing, how they're performing, and what their costs are. And you need comprehensive audit logging for complete traceability of actions, decisions, and outcomes. So as we think about agent security, there's really 4 key areas that we look at. First one is identity and authentication. Who is this agent claiming to be and how do we verify its identity? Then authorization and permissions. What is this agent allowed to do? Granular access controls for the tools it can use, the data it can access. Then we have the audit and compliance layer, comprehensive logging and regulatory adherence for everything the agent does. And then finally, threat detection, monitoring for malicious interactions with the agent, prompt injections, unexpected behaviors. The agent-human collaboration model is absolutely crucial to understand. And again, this is not a one-size-fits-all. It's a spectrum. So successful implementations require quite a lot of thought on this. Typically, we start with human in the loop. That's where every action an agent wants to take, every tool it wants to call needs to be approved by a human. That's typically during the learning phase. Then you have human on the loop, where there may still be certain hooks in place. For example, if an agent wants to send an email, it may need your approval. And then finally, you have human over the loop. That's where the agent is prompted to decide when to get the human involved. There are no specific programmatic hooks in place. Testing for agents is also a completely new paradigm. So testing autonomous agents requires a completely different approach. Really what you're wanting to do, because these are non-deterministic systems, It's behavioral testing you want to do, evaluating agents in different scenarios rather than for specific outputs. And there's a mix of approaches here, a mix of evaluation frameworks, including rules or rubric-based assessment, using a large language model as a judge of performance, and having humans perform evaluations. You also want to do adversarial testing, so red teaming testing of the agent security boundaries and failure modes through things like prompt injection and context manipulation. And finally, you want to focus on where the agent integrates with tools and existing systems, make sure that they are performing as expected, the right tools are being called in the right situations, and the agent is able to recover from failure. And speaking of failure and error handling and recovery in production, a number of considerations here. The first is detection. The agent needs to be able to detect when an error happens, providing graceful degradation and fallback mechanisms and tools for partial functionality, giving the agent enough guidance to allow it to self-correct and reevaluate what it's doing, and finally giving it escalation procedures to the human over-the-loop process, allowing it to escalate to the human when all other avenues of recovery have failed. So as enterprises start to integrate these agents into their production systems, there's a number of different considerations. There are things like data lake integrations, giving agents access to historical data and very valuable context that they can form memories from. Giving agents access to live data via API gateways, being able to read and update data in real time, and then integrating the agents into established workflow automation systems to provide more immediate value. Then we need to think about regulatory compliance and governance. So several areas here, things like data protection, whether that be GDPR or HIPAA, compliance with regulations and frameworks, whether that's ethic frameworks or the EU AI Act, and then compliance with requirements and regulations within specific verticals like SOX compliance or Basel III in financial services. There are quite a number of areas to consider. Yep, no, we can move on. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Thanks very much, John. That's great. Just moving on to then how we, based on that information that John has described, how we think about looking at investing in the AI agent marketplace. So I'm going to show you two slides here, but these really are a preview of our next webinar. So if you like this part of it and would like to go in more detail about how to invest in this area, please come along next Monday at 4 p.m. as well. So basically, we see the AI market as a collection of marketplaces. Starting at the bottom, we've got acceleration, so compute, NVIDIA, for example, going up to foundation models and then going up to cloud infrastructure. Now, we in SVV don't invest in these areas here. We do invest in this area here, which includes dev tools, AI security, agent platforms, orchestration platforms, and actually vertical agentic systems that are used by business and industry as well. And just zoning in on that, I just wanted to show some of the investments that we've made over the last 12 months. And I'd highlight Momentum, for example, which is agentic customer service, Gentech, which is agent orchestration, Mir Security, which is security for agents, and John spoke about why that was so important. Kerno, which is in the dev tools space, Inspect, which is in the observability and eval space, Vortex IQ, which is in a kind of vertical e-commerce agents, and actually that's just a small number of our companies, but you can see actually they're all targeting different parts of the AI agent marketplace. Now, I also want to talk about a project that we're running called agenticvc.org. And this is our project to design AI agents to improve our own business, i.e. eat our own dog food, build them on John's platform, the Alludium AI platform, which is Alludium, and John has spun out of SVV, and obviously John is running that. So we're building them on that platform, we're deploying them and testing them internally. but importantly, we're going to open source those for other VCs in the community as well. So I just want to touch on this a little bit. So basically, a VC is a double-sided marketplace. We raise capital from governments, institutional investors, and family offices on one side to invest that capital into promising new emerging AI startups. What I'm showing here on this screen are the four big macro processes on the investment side. So I'm just showing one side of the business. And we've targeted this as a pilot where we're looking at our sourcing processes, which is really about how we identify and engage with potential investment opportunities. Selection, which is about evaluating and doing investment management. Supporting, which is about how we provide support and value add to companies we invest in. And then syndicating/selling. Syndicating is about bringing other investors in to do follow-on investments in the companies that we invest in. And then selling is helping the founders of those businesses get an exit for themselves and obviously for our investors as well. So we took these four big macro processes on the investment side, and as a team, all members of the team in SVV looked at how we could build a set of agents on Alludium to automate our business. And on this slide, what I'm showing are some of the agents that were identified for the sourcing and selecting macro processes. I won't go through them in detail, but I will pick out maybe one in each category. So on the sourcing side, I would identify kind of the stealth signal agent. And this is an automated agent that is monitoring the external environment and doing things, for example, if somebody from the DeepMind team leaves that organization in London and goes into stealth on LinkedIn, that agent will immediately flag that for us so that we can proactively do an outbound outreach to that founder and ask them about their needs and start an engagement process with them. And there's actually many similar aspects to that kind of stealth agent. It's really about proactive outreach. On the selecting side, we have a whole series of agents which help us automate our investment management process, provide quicker and faster responses to the founders and companies that we engage with, and start to standardize our investment management process. A good example of this is we have a 10-factor, an 80-factor, and a 250-factor checklist that we use to evaluate companies on. And now we have a series of agents that are using the data that we get from companies to fill out these checklists for us, to identify gaps in information, questions we need to ask. And ultimately, where this will go for us is a rubric to evaluate and rate and rank so that we can, against different types of metrics, so that we can use additional data in our investment management process as well. The key thing for these these agents is that, one, they help us reach out to founders earlier, and two, from a founder perspective, they make us much faster, much easier to deal with. We have a whole bunch of agents as well in terms of supporting our companies, and these are often what I would call opportunity expansion agents. And we have a whole series of agents on the marketing side and the securing and selling side as well. So where we're at with this at the moment is we're working on this right now, and our goal is to open source all of these agents on GitHub and also through the Alludium platform for other VCs to use. And the reason we're doing that is we want to drive an open source and a dialogue about how do we automate as much as possible in VC, how do we provide better service to the companies that we meet and invest in, and how do we provide better returns to our investors. And we're open sourcing it because we want the community to be able to use this, but also we want to get feedback, we want to see other people's ideas, and we want to create a virtuous cycle of self-improvement. Already, though, we can see these agents are going to have a profound impact on how we do our work and also make us more productive and make us better. And our belief is that agents will do the same for any organization and enterprise. So if you look at where SVV's at the moment, I think we're in a very privileged position to really look into the future and see where AI agents are going to go. For example, we're looking at the market constantly, we're tracking what's going on, we're doing investments ourselves, we see what's going on from our portfolio companies. We have a spin out in the AI platform area who we're partnering with, and we're also doing this ourselves. We're building agents. We're seeing what works. We're seeing what doesn't work. We're learning our own lessons. We're just about to launch an open source community. So this gives us, I think, some really fantastic insight as to where agents are going. And in the final part of the presentation, what I'd like to do over 4 parts is to identify some lessons that we've learned. So in part 1, I'm going to talk about the obvious but still critical lessons for rolling out agents. In part 2, I'm going to touch on some non-obvious lessons that we've learned and we see from other implementations. Part 3, I'm going to look at some case studies and the benefits of getting it right. And then in part 4, I'm going to talk about how we see work changing. We can already see this in sharp relief, and we have some suggestions as to where this is going to go. So let's first of all talk about these obvious but still critical lessons. So lesson number 1. It's still important to have a senior team leadership and team buy-in. If you look at point 1 here, executive sponsorship is still a fundamental prerequisite for any change, and AI agents are no different. But if you look at point 2 here, leadership buy-in is not enough. We also need team buy-in, and there can be a gap between executive and employee perspectives on AI. For example, one study found that while 75% of C-suite executives believe their AI adoption had been successful, only 45% of employees agreed. So, most successful rollouts combine a top-down mandate with also a bottom-up support and robust support within the organization itself. Lesson number 2, organizations need to prepare their data and document their workflows. Enterprise AI that lacks enterprise context is ultimately extremely limited. And agents can only be effective if they have access to the right data and the right information to contextualize their work. And this is, John would have touched on this in terms of memory and context engineering. However, data readiness is a major challenge for enterprises. The Economist found that in one of their surveys, only 22% of organizations said their current architecture was fully capable of supporting AI. And beyond data, many pilots fail due to poorly documented workflows. Much of the time, these workflows are in people's heads. And this has led to some messy, difficult infrastructure work in getting data and workflows in place and context engineering to make these processes more efficient. So the more work that can be done here, the better the outcomes. And it's important for organizations still to invest heavily in skills enablement and change management, because there's no point providing tools if the workforce is not upskilled to use them. And in a trend that I think you'll see through, particularly in the work slides as well, the requirements of skills are shifting, and a new core competency is emerging, which is agent management and personal agent orchestration. So training people in the ability to manage these agents is very important. And organizational support structures are very important. So for example, the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund, when they rolled out agents, created a 6-person AI enabler team and 40 AI ambassadors across the organization, along with continuous seminars and courses to aid that rollout. And that rollout did produce really significant benefits to them. And then finally, change management, is important in any rollout of technology to an organization. Lesson number 4, we need to define clear objectives and quantify value. And you'll see here in this yellow highlighted area that many projects fail because of poor problem value fit, i.e., where a cool demo is tested, but without anybody being able to name the specific metric it's supposed to move. So all organizations need to avoid this experimentation trap. And the way they do that is with a focused strategy, which is to focus on one persona at a time, solve a single high pain problem, high value problem for a specific user group to first prove the value and then build momentum. And as John touched on as well, there needs to be a robust governance and control layer. And this is an emerging area for agent rollouts. And it's now been called the Agent Control Tower, which is a single pane of glass that provides governance in terms of a registry, policy enforcement, and compliance as well. So those are the 5 obvious lessons. But now let's move on to some of the non-obvious ones that we found. Right, so firstly, lesson number 6, trust is an engineered feature, not a design choice. So what this means is that users will not cede control to a system whose decision-making process is a black box. And this means that observability and explainability are not just back-end developer tools, they are mission-critical, user-facing features that must be designed into the system from day one. Without this, confidence will erode and the implementation will not be successful. The second non-obvious point I would make is that prompting is suggestion, but architecture is control. And what I mean by this is that there is a dangerous misconception that agent behavior can be reliably managed through prompt engineering at all. This is not the case. Prompts are fundamentally suggestions to a probabilistic system. They do not guarantee a strict adherence to rules. And what this means is that the control of the system must be at the architectural level. This requires this separate deterministic layer of enforceable business rules that operates outside of the LLM's reasoning loop. And then these enforceable business rules are integrated into agent processing. In addition to this, you have agent governance platforms and agent control towers. So control must be an architectural certainty, not a probabilistic hope. Lesson 8, agent architecture is bespoke, not off the shelf. The most successful production agents are designed for their specific use cases and acceptance criteria. And this often involves skillfully blending different patterns that John identified, such as single agent versus multi-agent systems. And then one which I think I'll come back to again, lesson 9, is that organizational structure must evolve from org charts to work charts. And this is really, agents. So if you think about what Alludium is providing us with, it's providing us with the capability of building teams of agents that work with teams of people. And once that actually starts to occur, the organization starts to become a network of digital agents working with people. And that kind of changes the org structure. No longer is that going to be a static org chart or a symbol of authority, but actually we're going to move to work charts which try to capture the dynamic, fluid reality of agent work. So a work chart then is a dynamic map of the steps from a trigger to an outcome in an agent. And a work chart articulates who or what performs each step: a human, an agent, a hybrid process, and focuses on tasks and throughput, not hierarchies. And again, what we're seeing is this fundamental shift of human roles away from doing and towards the higher level functions of design, oversight, strategy, and agent orchestration. And lesson 10 is the interface is shifting from user experience in traditional enterprise SaaS systems to agent experience in modern agent rollouts. And actually it's seen here from moving from screen centric to relationship centric. And this makes sense actually if you think about it, because If you think about the people who use enterprise SaaS, they're typically using it to key in information and do work. Whereas now what's going to happen is the agents are going to do the work, so they don't need that interface. More what humans need are the ability to design workflows, design agents, roll the agents, teams of agents out, and provide oversight and control of them. And again, that's what we've been working with John on as one of his design partners, to roll out teams of agents working with teams of people. Okay, so that's some of the lessons we've learned. Let's talk about some of the benefits of doing this right. So first of all, a step change in productivity. So if you look at Norway's sovereign wealth fund, they saw a 20% productivity gain, saving them a couple of 100,000 hours a year by automating data analysis and monitoring. Goldman Sachs saved 31%. And then agentic coding is typically at the moment saving about 40% time for agents that are rolling it out. This will change and this will improve and get even better as the underlying capability of the foundation models that power these agents gets better as well. And Anthropic are forecasting that they'll move to 80% of their code is produced by agentic coding. And very shortly after that, we do expect over the next couple of years to get to 100% as well, and developers being kind of providing that oversight layer. Benefit two is radical operational efficiency. If you look at Verizon, for example, they deployed a customer service agent that not only reduced call handling times, but also freed up human agents for sales conversations, leading to a 40% increase in overall sales and turning a cost center into a revenue center. JP Morgan Chase used agents to optimize digital ad copy, achieving a 450% increase in click-through rates. And Walmart, who are an early adopter of agents, have used them to cut fashion production times by up to 18 weeks. It's not all about productivity, as I've been saying. It's also about opportunity expansion and new business models. It's what we call opportunity AI. And this allows companies to fundamentally pursue ideas that were previously not possible because they were too hard or expensive to do. But when the cost of doing them goes close to zero, it opens up amazing new opportunities and business models. We actually find that in Shore Valley for some of the agents we've designed around supporting our companies, where the cost of them goes to zero, we can do a lot more for the companies. So it really opens up us providing better service, better care, better support to our companies, really at a very low economic cost. This will also, for many organizations, enable new business models, new revenue models, and just new opportunity in general. Benefit number four, we think, is that there will be the democratization of skill. That agents will act as a powerful force multiplier, augmenting human capabilities. We see this already with power users of the foundation models like ChatGPT or OpenAI. And for you that have used those models and got benefit out of them, imagine how things are going to be when you have a team of agents working for you, either on your personal productivity or the work that you do at work, and you're overseeing those agents and being far more productive. And then finally, I mean, enhanced brand and marketing positioning is a very important aspect of agent adoption as well, in terms of market leadership signaling, technology leadership, and also talent attraction as well. And you see that part of the reason that we're launching agenticvc.org is we want to give back to the community, but we also want to lead the community in getting better at running VC processes and supporting the companies that we meet and invest in as well. Right. Finally, to wrap it up, and we should wrap up in the next 5 minutes, I want to talk about how we see work changing. And we see 5 key things that are actually occurring in work at the moment. So the first one is we do believe that AI agents will end the career ladder as we know it. Now, I should say in this whole area, just to kick off, there is some anxiety out there about the impact of jobs on AI on jobs, particularly those starting their careers. and there's a lot of noise about this. We do see some data that is suggestive that it will be tougher for early career people, or it is tougher right now for early career people to get jobs. However, what we are very clearly seeing is that there will be a transformation in jobs in the organization as agents roll out. There will be a creative disruption, but there will still be lots of jobs left. They will just be quite different jobs, and those jobs will be primarily designing, orchestrating, managing, controlling teams of agents working with teams of people. So we don't believe that there will be mass unemployment. What we do believe is there will be a transformation in how organizations operate. And in many ways, in many ways, those people in the workforce that can adapt to that and hone their skills, it will be a great equalizer, and there will be tremendous opportunity. Also, I should touch on in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, clearly you can already see that by using tools like Lovable, it's never been faster to prototype software projects. And in many ways, people are able to build software projects when they haven't been developers before. Think about that trend continuing. Think about it democratizing, how people can get into the software market, build software products. Think about that being an equalizer for minorities and for women in particular who are underrepresented in the software industry. There is a huge opportunity for everyone to benefit from these agents and the opportunity they provide. So it's not necessarily about losing jobs. It's about restructuring, but there's huge opportunities for individuals as well. And again, I just want to touch on this org charts to work charts again, an organizational redesign. And I really like this graphic here, because this graphic for me, if you think about the triangle as representing the traditional hierarchical organization, and it being broken down by teams of agents working with teams of people through, and the organization moving from org chart to work chart. I think that this visual neatly captures the transformation of organizations. A couple of other things to mention as well. There will be new collaboration models. So just going back to Walmart again, they created networks of agents, but they had like 4 super agents in a kind of a command and control type design pattern, and 1 super agent for customers, 1 for associates, and so on. And that proved to be a very, very effective way of bridging the cognitive divide or cognitive gap that currently exists for people getting used to these systems. So see that as an emerging early pattern. I think over time, as people get used to this technology, we will go to teams of agents working with teams of people. But in the early days, I think Walmart's approach is a super approach that we'll see many organizations take. And then I want to come back on John's point about human on the loop. And again, I just want to stress this, that we will have humans collaborating with agents and teams of agents. If you look at software engineers, and John could probably talk about this from his own software development team working in Alludium, they're now teams of people working with teams of agents on all parts of the software engineering process. What John's team is doing is a foretaste for what all teams will do, particularly for knowledge work in organizations. And then finally, I just want to touch on these 2 points again: opportunity expansion and ambient intelligence. Opportunity expansion, agents free human ingenuity to focus on strategic innovation, rapid product development, and identifying previously untapped market niches. And then on the ambient intelligence side, this is where these agent systems, proactively anticipate needs and provide seamless support without explicit command, but of course within the framework of oversight and a control tower. And finally, just to conclude, we believe where we're going, and we will go there quite quickly given the pace of improvement of the capability of agents, is we believe we're going towards the sentient enterprise. And this is the integration of agentic AI will transcend traditional IT implementation. It'll represent a fundamental business transformation requiring comprehensive organizational re-architecture. And just coming back to some of these topics we discussed, the agentic AI mesh, the long-term vision of a digital nervous system for enterprises made up of agents enabling unprecedented organizational intelligence and adaptive capability, and also how leadership needs to evolve as well. Management will shift from people oversight to designing and governing autonomous, value-creating systems at enterprise scale. And again, just think about that. It's not all about productivity, it's about opportunity expansion. And in fact, I think, particularly in the entrepreneurial arena, those organizations that focus on opportunity expansion will do best. And this is strategic value that extends beyond efficiency to enabling previously impossible business models, services, and experimental approaches. So for us, the imperative for leadership is not mere technology adoption, but profound strategic and organizational reinvention to architect a fundamentally transformed future in the entrepreneurial and also enterprise arena. So that's it. Thank you for staying with us for the 50 minutes. I hope you got some value out of that. We'd love to hear from you as to how you found that. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to engage with you. What I'd like to do is I'd like to highlight that we have, if you enjoyed the couple of slides on investment strategy, join us next Monday at 4 p.m. for Saurabh and Brian doing a deep dive on our investment strategy around AI and AI agents. We'd love to see you there. And I'll just hand over, John, for you to say goodbye to everybody as well.
Yeah, thank you, Barry. Yes, thank you everyone for joining us. We are at an incredibly interesting and exciting time in this space. We're going to see so much transformation in the next 12 months. We've seen so much already in the last 12, but it is an area that everyone needs to be aware of. And yeah, very exciting things to come.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, John. Thanks everybody for joining, and look forward to seeing you on the next webinar.